Hey, everybody. Before we get to today's podcast, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the horrendous events that happened at Robb Elementary School yesterday in Texas. 19 kids were dropped off at school, just like you and I have dropped off our kids at school so many days, and they never made it home. And 2 teachers also lost their lives. I'm sure all of you felt exactly as I did when you heard the news. It just puts a pit in your stomach. It just makes you feel sick. You just feel so much for those who are going through so much pain and difficulty right now. And I don't even know what the right words are to say in this moment, but I know we're all feeling it, and we just send our love and prayers. There's a lot of debate at a time like this about what the appropriate conversation is to have. Lots of talk about gun control south of the border. And lots of debate about whether or not it's even okay to talk about that in this moment. I'm not going to get overly political on this podcast, but what I will say from my standpoint is I really hope and really pray that common sense can start to win the day, because common sense, I believe in this situation, is going to keep people safe. And so that these horrible events can be minimized, reduced, maybe even eradicated entirely. Who knows? We can all hope. With that said, we send our thoughts and our prayers to those who are suffering after this unspeakable tragedy. We are thinking about you and just sending love. Welcome to Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products. You know, nobody puts in wood windows or siding anymore, so why would you build a wood fence or deck? You might as well do it once with high-quality, maintenance-free vinyl. You can call my brothers, Rick here in Edmonton or Rob in Calgary, at DLR Vinyl Products. I've got lots of it in my yard, and I love it. It's fantastic stuff. Locations in Calgary and Edmonton, that is DLR Vinyl Products. Welcoming in Jason Strudwick. Struddy, how are you, my man?
Good, really good. Quite the evening of hockey.
We're one guy shy on the podcast tonight, so TR was going to be joining us, but MIA after the game. And in fairness to him, Struddy, it's pretty late there. Like, we're taping this at midnight our time. That makes it 3:30 a.m. their time, but we're going to give it a go anyways. We'll try TR one more time here. See if he picks up. This would be good. I don't know, buddy. I'm not liking our chances.
Well, while we're waiting, I've watched all 4 episodes of Shoresy, and it is good. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's really funny. I have to admit,
good.
Yeah, I was really impressed by him and by the whole show. It's funny. It is a really good show. And if
let's listen.
TRyan.
Let's listen to this.
I'll get back to you if you can answer the following skill-testing question. Number 1, Beatles released an album in 1967, which was considered the first concept album. Featured the songs "A Day in the Life" and "With a Little Help from My Friend." Name the album and a couple more songs on it. Number 2, 1992-93, an NHLer came back from Hodgkin's
Can you believe this
before
guy?
cancer. Missed the first 23 games in the season and came back to win the scoring. What was his name?
This is his
Number
voicemail.
3,
Who does
in
this?
1995, this Newfoundlander scored 50 goals in the Western Hockey League for the Tri-City Americans, was eventually drafted 8th overall by the Montreal Canadiens. Name the player. Answer those and I'll get back to you.
What a guy.
Sorry, the mailbox has an extended absence greeting in place.
And now that we can't even leave a message.
Goodbye.
What is with this guy? What an enigma. The enigma that is TRyan.
He is a classic. He's a classic, this guy.
All right. Well, let's just get to it, Struddy. This will be you and I, and why not? The originals. Time for the breakdown, brought to you by Park Mazda, where the newly redesigned 2022 CX-5 has arrived. Check out the brand new all-wheel drive sport design trim with its turbocharged engine and see the available colors and trims in stock at parkmazda.ca. Quite the game, Struddy. You know, we knew that the Oilers were a team that when their backs were against the wall, they had the ability to counterpunch and to strike. I wondered if they were a team that could be predatory, that could sense the moment that they had a team down and jump. And I think they answered that bell here tonight. 3-0 after the first period, and then they find a way.
Yeah. The start was going to be huge tonight. I honestly I thought this could be a Flames win. I think that, this was the series, maybe not, series clinching, but I felt that this was a huge moment in this series. And both teams knew that. And, getting that first goal, a kind of a weird bounce off of Markstrom's stick and the way Nugent-Hopkins got it, that was a huge start for them. And the Oilers just kept going. And that first period, they played well. I thought the Flames had some moments towards the end of that period that maybe kind of was a prelude to what might be coming down. But, in the first round, the Oilers had a tough game 4. They did not, tonight they didn't. They came out and they played hard, especially to start the game, which was a huge step forward, Shoggy.
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted there. I agree. I mean, this was an opportunity for them to really, really pounce. And I just think that they recognized that moment and they jumped on it. They got off to a good start. They did a good job early on in this game. And yeah, there were some mistakes that were made, but I just think that, I thought enough guys were good early and were really pushing it along. And I think the Flames were really making a lot of the tough mistakes and the Oilers were being opportunistic. Yeah,
they were, and seeing Tanev out there gutting it out, that Hyman's goal, the power play goal, like he has no arm strength. He couldn't fight through that bat, because he's a hard player. Like he's not a guy you think, oh boy, this is going to be, an easy tap in. Hyman is a grinder and Tanev was the same, but you can see his arm. He's got one arm out there. You can't lift sticks. You can't push people out of the way. He played well. I thought he played actually quite well considering his limitations. But that to me was, it's not a mistake, but it's nobody's fault. Like there's nothing he can do about that there in that moment. And that goal was, at the time it was a pretty big goal.
Yeah, a huge goal. So Markstrom has the misplay and, Nugent-Hopkins pounces on that. The 2-0 goal, like that much needed power play goal, and kind of an unfair matchup there between Hyman and Tanev, right? Like Zach Hyman's going to beat you in most puck battles, let alone a guy with a bad shoulder. So fortunate matchup there. Oilers get an important power play goal. And then who's the 3-0? Evander Kane, and more giveaways by the Calgary Flames. I just think, Darryl Sutter said after the game that he thought his team played a good first period. And I guess, they dominated. They had lots of zone time and possession and stuff, but I didn't think that the Flames were playing a game that was, the Oilers better watch out here. I thought it was a little bit of a false front, just in terms of what the numbers showed in that first period. And it's 3-0 Edmonton. So I don't know that the Flames were as good in the early going as Sutter maybe wanted it to make it sound after the game.
Well, I think compared to maybe what we've seen in the previous games, I think it was, especially game 3, I think it was a step in the right direction. And there were 2 shifts. I think it was at the end of the first, specifically against Nugent-Hopkins line, where they're hemmed in their own zone for a while. Puljujärvi gets on the wall, can't get it out. And now you're in your zone for a while. There was I think he and Hyman both had 2 blocks to prevent, anything worse from happening. So you got to build off something, right? You're the coach of the team. And even the Kane goal, it went off of a Zadorov stick. It tips off, I'm not going to say they're lucky goals, but they were, definitely goals that, the Oilers earned with putting pressure on, but they weren't like, what we'd seen in the previous off of rush. Like they were goals you kind of had to grind it out a little bit. So, I think definitely that, I don't know if it was 3-0, but I think at the end they did come on, but at the end of the day, good periods, it doesn't matter anymore. You got to win periods and you got to win games. So, he talked about it going to be a little harder at the end. I get that, but it's still, you got to win games, not periods.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're going to go to the Average Joe's sound box here. Average Joe's next to Home Depot on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. It's a great spot to watch the game. So if you're looking for a spot to watch the Oilers try and clinch in Game 5, Average Joe's right next to Home Depot. You picked the clips tonight, Struddy, because I was working post-game and then driving home. Which do you want to start with? And Zuby behind the scenes will fire it.
Zuby, I think we got to start with Mike Smith. In the game, Mike Smith, there was a power play. The Oilers had a power play, an extended one. And the puck goes down the wall. Kane gets it, mishandles it, goes to Rasmus Andersson, who one-times it from, let's call it the top of his circles. In the
160 feet, you figure?
Yeah. I've got to be pretty close, give or take. And then goes right past Mike Smith, who didn't see it. Or let's hear what he said in his words, how the tying goal with, what was it, Schauger, 7 minutes left or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was tight.
How it went by him to tie the game on a shorthanded goal from 160 feet.
I can laugh now, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't think there's been a time in my career where I've lost a puck where I have no idea where it went. And talking to some guys after, I wasn't the only one that didn't know where it was either. So it made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want that to happen ever.
Yeah, ever. Well, he was the only one that was supposed to stop it, though. So that's yeah. I guess, he said on the broadcast too, I guess, that a couple of guys crossed in front and then it came, and his reaction, he clearly did not have a clue where that thing was. What I was impressed with, Struds, this Oiler team, they've had some comebacks happen against them. They've had some tough moments where in big games, the walls have collapsed in on them and teams have come back and it's been crushing for them. I can imagine this felt somewhat stressful after they gave up that lead. They did a good job steadying themselves and counterpunching. And I think that's important for this team to have rebounded that way from that moment and that kind of goal.
You absolutely nailed it. The story isn't the fact that Mike Smith got scored on from 160 feet away. The story is that the Oilers rebounded, regrouped, and got the winning goal, shortly after to win the game. A very important game 3 at home in the 4th game of the series. That to me is it. You're going to have goals go in. It's a weird goal. There is no doubt. I was part of a series, Detroit, Vancouver Canucks. I was with the Canucks. The coach had decided not to play me this particular game. Not sure why, but we were up 2-0 in that series. I want to say it was in the 2nd period. And Nick Lidstrom gets over his blue line and just for the red line shoots a puck in, dumps it in, clear shot on Kluche and goal just below his glove. And we lost that game in the next 3. We were out. We were knocked out. We didn't have the ability to regroup. Now that team, the Red Wings team was, considerably better than the Flames. No disrespect to that. But I remember talking to Brendan Shanahan about it years later. And he said, even when we were down 2-0, we knew there was nothing to fear. But when that puck went in, we knew that would break you guys' spirit. You didn't have the experience.
Really?
He was 100% right. So as I was watching this game tonight, I'm like, whoa, mama, I've been through that. I was not playing, I was on the team, I wasn't playing. And just the to come back and to not sit back and not think, oh my God, this is a bad omen. Because if let's say the Oilers lose this game tonight, that's the conversation about what the goal went in, how the Oilers didn't bounce back. Now we're going into game 5 tied in Calgary, completely different. So for me, that is the central story of this game. The Oilers' ability to regroup, refocus, get the win, support their goalie, and continue on now into game 5 in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and Jay Woodcroft talked after the game about maybe some of the scars from the past. They developed some of that scar tissue, and I think that they were able to steel themselves. We'll go back to the average Joe soundbox here, Struddy. What else do we have? Some Woodcroft? Yeah,
this is Woodcroft kind of talking about this need of after that goal and what he said to his or didn't say to his group.
It's about taking care of our next shift, what's immediately in front of us. And I thought our guys, like I said, showed a really good measure of resolve, really good measure of resiliency. And in the end, we got the right people on the ice at the right time, found a way to score.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting comment from him, Struds. You get the right people on the ice at the right time and found a way to score. I'm not saying he's patting himself on the back, but what he did is he flip-flopped Yamamoto and Puljujarvi. And he did it on a hunch. Yamamoto played a crucial role in that goal that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins ended up scoring. So Woodcroft, acknowledging his group, had to just focus on the next shift. But he made a tweak, and he alluded to that there.
Yeah, and you know what? Give yourself some credit sometimes. I mean, geez, the guy's done a great job, and I think we're all pumping him up. But it's okay to say that we made an adjustment and it worked out well. But I love your comment about the scars. When you're growing a team that's trying to be a championship level team, you need to have some kick in the nuts, and you have to know that it's going to get better. Like we've all been kicked in the nuts, and it hurts, but eventually it gets better. And that was a massive kick in the nuts for the Oilers tonight. And they were able to rebound and regroup and win the game. And that's something you can remember, right? You can remember that. They've had a game. What was this, game 2? Were they down? Was it down 2-0? And they came back. They were losing game 2 and they came back and won the game. Like, again, another learning experience, knowing that you can grow and be, just because you're not winning the game right off the hop doesn't mean, you can stop trying, or doesn't mean you don't have a chance of winning. So it's a great, they're getting the wins, but they're learning on the way. They learned last series, game 2 and 3. Sorry, game 4 and 5. These are learning experiences.
Losses,
so you're learning, you're improving. Yeah, Puljujärvi's kind of bounced back this series. Like, there's things to be, that you can take with you, and they're still winning on the way. So I think this is, these are good. You don't want to just roll through 4 straight. This isn't Tampa, who's won 2 Stanley Cups back to back. They've been through all these learning lessons, right? You need to learn these things. And I think this is maybe something that's evaded the Oilers in recent years with their, kind of shorter first round playoff exits.
Yeah, I agree. 2 more things I want to talk about here. You'll like this one. I want to talk about the blue liners, and I want to talk about the depth that they have on the blue line. Darnell Nurse played 25 minutes during the regular season. He was 18-30 and change in this game. That is an indication that he's injured. He's playing through something. That is the signal that everybody else needs to roll up, pick up the slack and to do more. I don't think we're talking enough about the job that the Oilers blue liners are doing. Smart little plays. Yeah. Cody Ceci on the winner, the job he did on the wall in his own end that led to that puck being able to be broken out, that led to that whole sequence of events. Brett Kulak, I have in my notes like 5 or 6 times where Brett Kulak just made calm, collected plays to help the Oilers break the puck out. Duncan Keith, Evan Bouchard, they're all in my notes here. Just steady plays. I don't think they're getting enough credit because we're doing so much talking about the big guns, and rightfully so, Struddy. But to me, this blue line is not only held, they've been really, really good in this series.
They have been. And I don't think we can underestimate the impact that Duncan Keith is having on this group. No. He's had some tough moments, but you know what? You're a D-man playing the NHL playoffs. You're going to have some tough moments, right? But when I think back to Stanley Cup, and listen, I'm not suggesting I was going to win the Stanley Cup, but when I think back to the last, how many years, 20 years, the teams that won the Stanley Cup, they've all had a stud defenseman. There's been, you look at Doughty or Keith a little bit younger, Pietrangelo, Letang,
Chara.
All these guys are studs. Yeah, Chara, really good example. The only team that didn't was the Carolina Hurricanes. And the Brett Hedekins, Caberlets, Aaron Ward, Brett Hedican, I think I said him already, but Glenn Wesley, I think he was another guy in that group. They when I watch this group of D play, I think of that group often because I remember watching them thinking, how the hell are these guys going to Stanley Cup without a stud defenseman? They kind of just bounced, same thing. They all kind of had a role. They all kind of did their job. If you could combine 1 or 2 of them, you get a stud defenseman. But you don't, so you split it up and kind of hand out the details of the job in different ways. So, again, I'm not sitting here saying they're going to Stanley Cup, but that's how you have to do it. Everyone has to have their job. You got Barry on the power play, you got Bouchard and Keith, kind of making those plays and trying to, suck up a lot of those 5-on-5 minutes. The penalty kill, if required, you can bring Russell in. Kulak is doing what he's doing. Barry, it's a balanced group. And Nurse isn't at 100%, so you're just spreading out as much as you can. But I don't think they want the attention. I don't think they need the attention. They're just doing their job and doing the best they can and giving this team a chance.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins hadn't scored in 8 games. He's only scored in 2 of the playoff games this year, but he's got 2 goals in both of those games. I think this was important for him to get on the board and to score a goal that lit the building up. To score a goal of this magnitude for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I think this will potentially be a pretty big deal for him. It's not that he hasn't scored playoff goals before, but in the bubble, the fans kind of weren't there to celebrate. He lit this building up. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had a signature moment. And I think over his career, he's had a lot of really good moments, but I don't necessarily know that he's had that signature moment that he had tonight. I think players need that, especially guys that are number one overall picks that are, playing third line center on a lot of nights. I really think this was important for Nuge, this game and this performance.
Yeah, he's never had a moment like that. Like, honestly, like to score the first goal and fourth goal in it's such an important game. I think he was just, he was, he's been not snake bitten, but, the Oilers need him scoring. With Leon Draisaitl no longer acting as a center, with him on the wing, it's a challenge now. He's been bumped up and he's playing, against significant lines, and he's doing a pretty good job. Hyman's there with him, and then whether it's Puljujarvi or Yamamoto, that's a lot different what maybe we expected him to be with the third line center, right? Where that was a matchup issue for other teams. He needs to be feeling like he can score as well, because, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but if you're going to meet the Avalanche, one center McKinnon, second center Kadri, like, no disrespect to who the Flames, with the Flames, who they have right now, but offensively, those two guys are on the same level. Like Lindholm and Backlund aren't the same level as these two cats. Yeah. So again, getting ahead of ourselves, but these are things you have to think about. How are you feeling? Are you able to contribute offensively? So big goal for him. Well, big 2 goals for him. And just, I liked how he got him, especially the second goal. He was in the blue paint, and at times, a lot of people are critical where he gets it. He was in the blue paint fighting with, I think it was Shillington. And not that Shillington's a real battler, but he was in that area, and that's the kind of goals you got to score in the playoffs. He had a couple chances from further out. I'm not sure his shot's dialed in right now, but when you're that close, you have to chip shot it over. You got it.
Connor McDavid held to a pedestrian 2 points in this game.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but the overriding point is he wasn't in that same sort of supernova zone that he had been, which is fine. A guy's not going to be there every single game. And he was really, really good in this game. So I'm not criticizing him anyway. The point I'm making with this is there was a lot of space for some other guys to fill in some gaps tonight, and they really did. They had other meaningful contributions from guys, and I think it's good for those secondary guys to be the storyline every now and then.
Yeah, it's a team. Mike Smith said it after. It takes a team to win the game. This isn't tennis where it's one-on-one, or basketball, even where one guy like LeBron can drag you to the final. And Connor's at the same level as LeBron as far as, his influence on the game, impact on the game. So you need everyone contributing, and there are going to be nights where you're right. Connor, like he gets his 2 points, but it wasn't, we've seen him in some nights where he just completely takes over a game. I think we have to give a little bit of credit to the Flames. I thought they did a better job of start defending him from the offensive zone. They weren't doing that. I thought specifically in game 3, he was coming up the ice pretty much just untouched. Today, they did a better job of that, and I expect him to tighten that up even more as they roll into game 5, a desperate team. But they need to spread it out. Kane, what he's doing is, look at that pickup. That is bar none the best pickup any team has done all year. You got Nuge scoring. It'd be nice to get some of those wild cards kind of further down the lineup scoring. Hyman's doing it. I'd like to see Puljujarvi and Yamamoto get in there, although Yamamoto did contribute today in his way. But for right now, the recipe is working. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You got to keep in mind that, game 6 and game 7 against the Kings, Barry and Ceci scored the game-winning goal. So might not be coming out of your bottom 6. It is coming from somewhere other than Connor and Leon, the normal people.
I'm going to make an observation, mild criticism, kind of nitpicking. But we talked about the really nice line change that Jay Woodcroft made to, generate Yamamoto into that spot, ends up, helping generate the winning goal. There was something he did tonight that I thought he got in his own way a little bit, Struddy. I thought after the Calgary Flames scored their goal, their first goal, he had an opportunity to come right back with McDavid. But the Flames put Backlund out. And so he chose not to put McDavid out, and instead he put McLeod out.
Yeah.
And McLeod made a mistake in his own end. Puck goes back the other way. It ends up going in. I guess what I'm saying here is you have the guy. And I understand, he wanted Lindholm instead of Backlund and wasn't looking for that matchup. But I do think you got to just play your guy on your terms. And when they score a big goal and when they're sucking momentum back and you need a big shift, you need to put Connor McDavid on the ice if he's ready to go. And I thought he maybe overthought that a little bit by not going with him out of that goal. And then he didn't go with him out of the next goal either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he wasn't directly asked about that in the post game, but he did say
we thought about it, but it was they won the game, right?
I'm not. Listen, I'm not being critical of the question. I'm just saying. But he did. I think allude to it in the way that he said we have tremendous belief in all of our players and all of our lines. So I think he does believe in him. I think in his mind, it was a right choice to do that. And McLeod's given us some good minutes through this playoffs. I understand what you're saying, but if you're always turning to the big gun, maybe he needs a break and someone else has to step up and get it done. I was actually a moment I thought was interesting is after the first goal by Nuge, neither coach changed their lines. Both lines stayed out there. And I was like, I
noticed that too.
And it seems to be a trend in NHL where you don't change a line after they get scored on. When I played, if you got scored on, you were off. And I'm talking whether it was Gretzky, well, maybe Gretzky, not Gretzky, maybe a little high, but like Strudwick or higher, they'd come off. And because it gives you a chance to reset.
Go to the bench in shame.
Yeah, well, I mean, whose fault was that really? I mean, you can't change the goalie after 40 seconds, but I thought that was interesting. But I hear what you're saying. And I know there's some criticism online about that.
Was there? I didn't see it, but
but Chagar, I mean, the guy's pulling so many strings, right? If he feels that that's the right choice, I have a hard time arguing with him, because there's some things I would have done differently and he has done it his way and they've got it right. So, it's easy to sit back, kick back and say, well, you should have done this or should have done that. Like, for the Flames, why is Stone on the ice who's played 3 minutes and he's going out there at the end of the game? I as a player, I don't want that. I don't want to be out there. And I'm not saying that's the reason they lost, but when you look at it, like, why is this guy out there at this time? Like, was someone else unavailable or that's an interest. That to me, I think is a little bit more questionable maybe than this choice of a coach who's been, quite frankly, in the zone with his lines.
Yeah, no, more than fair. And I think I said at the beginning too, like I understand I'm nitpicking a little bit here. And I find it interesting. Daryl Sutter doesn't really like matching lines. He just he does what he does and doesn't really even try on the road to chase any sort of matchup. So, but you are right. Woodcroft has made a lot of decisions, not trying to be overly hard on him, but I just noticed it and thought, maybe that's worth mentioning. Mm-hmm. But again, nice touch later on with the Yamamoto swap. Anything else in the sound box that we need to get to before we wrap up here, Struddy? What else do we have? We had Nuge, I think, didn't we? Zuby? Did we have a Nuge? I can't remember. I thought we had a Ryan Nugent.
I thought we had a Daryl Sutter.
Oh, do we have Sutter? Okay, perfect. We'll go back.
Oh, Nuge
and Sutter? Okay, which one's better? We'll use just one of them.
Sutter's always fun to hear from.
Yeah, I'd go with Daryl. Uncle Daryl.
Okay, back to the Average Joe soundbox. Here's Daryl Sutter after the loss.
I liked how we played, so I know we're in a hole, but now it's like saying we had to win on the road. Now we got to win at home. Yeah, I got no problem with it. I say that always. I mean, that's part of the whole process of our team growing. But we hung around tonight. We're not going to go away easy, and if they thought they were going to beat us easy, that wasn't the case.
Struds, will a coach get out there and project what he feels he needs to project with the next game in mind, as opposed to really being honest about what went on out there? I'm not saying that he's dead wrong. I just down 3-0 after the first, shooting themselves in the foot with all sorts of giveaways. That felt like a coach understanding the position his team was in and deciding not to pile on.
Well, I will agree 100% with what he said about they were hard out. Like they didn't go down easy. And they fought back. I mean, after 3-0, you're on the road. That play, Rogers was absolutely rocking. It's easy to tap out, but they get back in that fight. They score a couple goals, get it going, then they get the lucky one, and they're in that. It was a winnable game. It wasn't actually that dissimilar to what we saw in game one, where the Oilers got down quick. And then they kind of fight back and get it tied up, and then they end up losing. Just as far as that comeback and showing that guts. So I'm telling you what, Thursday night, that is going to be a hard out. It is going to be a hard win. Because this team, everyone always says that the clinching game is the hardest one to win. And I don't know that, both goalies made a mistake. I thought they had both made some huge saves. Markstrom's save on Draisaitl was absolutely humongous on the power play. That
was unreal.
Now, if Draisaitl, and again, if he's 3 inches higher, that's a goal. But that was a huge save that allowed the team to get back in and get that tying goal. So I think this game on Thursday will be an absolute dogfight. I just can't. It's going to be hard. And Darryl get them all fired up and tuned up to go out there and do that.
Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait. That was the breakdown brought to you by Park Mazda, where the newly redesigned 2022 CX-5 has arrived. Check out the brand new all-wheel drive sport design trim with its turbocharged engine and see the available colors and trims in stock at parkmazda.ca. I will be on the road to Calgary bright and early on, I don't even know what day it is. What day is it right now?
It'll be Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning you'll be driving down.
Yeah, it gets to this part in the series too, where it's like quick back and forth, and it just ends up being a blur. But I'll be in Calgary for game number 5, and maybe we'll check in with you after game 5, buddy. We'll see if the Oilers can clinch. It's too early to make a prediction, but I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be intense and another classic chapter of the Battle of Alberta.
Oh, it's been great. And I picked the Flames in 6. I thought the Flames would win 2-0 tonight. So I'm obviously really good at predicting. People should be listening to everything I say and bet on it. I honestly think Thursday is going to be a tough night. It's going to be a tough clinch. First off, losing at home in a series that you were favored in. Second of all, making that a loss to the Edmonton Oilers, and you're going to have to live with and wear that for a long time. It is going to be tough. They're going to make it tough to get in there. And, Markstrom is going to put the whole world on his shoulders and hope to really get a win for this team. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's been great. You know what? This whole series has been great to watch. I've really enjoyed it. The Tampa, Florida one, I checked in a bit. It's been, it was pretty one-sided. I know it was 4 straight. Rangers, Carolina, it's enjoyable. St. Louis and Colorado, obviously, so much talent. It's fun watching that. But this one, I think, has been obviously a little bit selfish, I guess, but I think it's been the best of the 4.
Yeah, no, I don't agree. I don't disagree with you, buddy. The high-end talent in this, the way that they're playing, McDavid's putting on a show. The goaltenders are like up and down and all over the place. There's drama. There's lots going on in this series. It's been awesome. Great stuff, pal. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you in a few days.
Talk to you then, guys.
Okay, pal. Still plenty more to come here on Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products. Stick with us. Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards, and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it, and I'm very proud that they are our title sponsors. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary. Hey, it's Ryan Rishaug. While many are feeling the sting of inventory shortages, Park Mazda has you covered. They've got new Mazdas arriving every month, including the redesigned 22 CX-5 in whatever color you're looking for. They've also got a huge selection of used vehicles with new arrivals every week and some of the most competitive interest rates on cars, trucks, SUVs, and more. Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park, off Y Road,
Schedule a test drive at parkmazda.ca.
All right, time now for Duffy and Dregs, brought to you by Belvan Construction, specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces. Visit belvanconstruction.com. Terry Ryan sitting in for James Duffy today. James was kind enough to step aside, TR, and give you a chance to redeem yourself for being toes up snoring when the phone call came late last night, buddy.
Yeah, I do apologize. And usually I am a man of my word, but you know what happened? I watched the game and I moved into a new spot and my daughter came out, who's 12. It's not like she's like 4-year-old with a blanket, but right. It was her first night in here and she came out. I can't sleep. I sit next to me on the couch. One thing led to another. The fireplace is going. And I was in La La Land, 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, but I did catch right up. That was right after the empty net goal. So I apologize, but here I am to like you say, redeem.
You are at a significant, I mean, I would chirp harder, but Dregs, like this is an opening you and I would normally just pounce on and exploit to the nth degree, but he does have a time zone issue. Like these games are already starting late and you're 3.5 hours later than we are here in Edmonton.
I am, but like I said, I've got I'm doing background tomorrow on Hudson and Rex, right? We got to go in at 4:30 a.m. I just, for some reason, and a lot of times I do my podcast, if it's cool with the guest, I do it at night. I like the peace and quiet. I'm a guy, my mind races in between 1 and 6 in the morning. I find that doesn't happen as much. I guess it's a feeling that everybody else is not doing anything. I don't know what it is. I used to like to get to the rink. Yeah. Noon for games at 7, and for the first 3 hours I didn't have any stress. I don't know what it is, but it's in my psyche and it works.
We'll give him a pass, hey Dregs, we won't go too hard here.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to complain about the start times. I was up till 3:30 Eastern on I guess it was Saturday morning after game 3, and I'm like, geez, that just blew my entire Saturday, which supposedly is supposed to be a down day, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to complain, even though it sounds like I'm complaining, given what Terry has to deal with.
So this is like an ESPN PGA golf. That's where all this came from, right? Dregs of people are, because I get asked all the time, what the heck's going on? That was basically the drill with that, hey?
Yeah, it was. And I don't think anybody should have to make apologies. And by anyone, I mean the National Hockey League. They're trying to grab as many eyes as they can, but they're beholden to the networks. And that's ESPN and TNT in the US and CBC and Sportsnet here in Canada. I mean, that's part of the agreements that you make when you're charging billions and billions of dollars for the rights fee. So, it's mildly inconvenient for us, but for the most part, the hockey has been good. We're doing pre-games and post-games, and man, what we're leaving on the cutting room floor is terrific. So it's a small price to pay for the quality of the game.
Yeah. The one unfortunate thing for me, and I totally agree with you. I mean, they got to do what they got to do, but man, I think there's a lot of kids, east of Alberta that are missing out on some pretty awesome stuff. And it's a bit of a missed opportunity for them to see the greatest player in the world rocking and rolling. Dregs, you were on the panel last night while TR was sleeping, so we'll start with you. What are your initial impressions of just the way the Oilers kind of answered that moment? Because we were wondering if that was a moment they'd be able to answer, if they could really strike. And it seems to me they answered that one, Dregs.
No question. And the moment you're talking about is the Mike Smith gaffe and how quickly they responded to that. I mean, that was a game the Oilers didn't play very well. They got a couple of breaks early in the game. Markstrom gifted them on one. The deflection. I'm not a goalie. I would argue that that's a save that he probably has to make. And, quickly in the first period, it's a 3-0 hockey game, but it didn't feel like Edmonton was fully in control of that game. And then here comes Calgary. They claw back. They play better defensively. I'm still chuckling this morning because some of the media aftermath of the game, given the fact that the Oilers bounced after, Mike Smith let one in from 132 feet, was, give Calgary credit here. They found a way to contain Connor McDavid. Well, did they? I mean, there was a swarm defense there. There were more bodies around him. Maybe he didn't have the same ice in space that we've seen to this point of the series. But so he puts in 2 points. Leon has 3 points. Evander King gets 2 goals. I mean, if they contained McDavid in that line, then they're in big trouble going into the next one.
TR.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, guys, what I noticed more than anything was Calgary's lack of energy, or they looked defeated at points. They looked vulnerable. That's the word. I mean, I'd like to point to, we talked about it. Edmonton having slow starts before, and they're Jekyll and Hyde. We've talked about that. They came out. I expected last game to come out. This, I really didn't know. I mean, who does know? I'm not saying that I know everything, Ryan, but what I'm saying is that when we talk, I really didn't know, but this was handed it to them. Mark's right. I mean, of course they got a good start, but really it was just gifted. Yeah. Right. I mean, that was a bad play by Markstrom right off the bat. Okay, we got a goal. It's 1-0. Now you don't want to give a team with energy already and momentum all that more energy. And it seemed to me, people talking about containing McDavid. He must have had 4 or 5 rushes that he didn't score on. One real nice glove save that goes in. I mean, he's got a goal and 2 assists. I don't understand. I don't think they contained him at all. I think it was sloppier than I've seen Calgary. And again, because they looked defeated, they were second guessing themselves. Guys that were flying in game 1 just seemed unsure of themselves, from the hitters to the scorers to the goalie. I think they looked like an exhibition team last night.
I was surprised after the game, you guys, that Daryl Sutter talked about how he liked their first period and kind of liked their game. I think at a certain point, coaches, when they do those post-game press conferences, it's kind of like managing the tone for the next game already, right? As opposed to 100%. really digging in on the truth of what went on out there. Now, I do agree that they were better in the first than they had been in previous games. Even though it was 3-0, it didn't seem like the same kind of tilted ice in the same way. But to your point, Dregs, I didn't think that Calgary played a branded game where if they just throw that back out on the ice again next game, they're going to get a better result if the goalie just doesn't make a gaff or two. And that, to me, that was the messaging I heard out of Calgary after that game, and I just didn't agree.
That was a specific demeanor by Daryl Sutter, right? A guy who's been there, done that. He's seen it all.
He was laughing and joking.
Head coach.
He was laughing and joking with the media.
He was borderline giddy. And that's by Daryl Sutter's standards, right? Like, you don't normally get that sort of optimism and positivity out of him, even though, he's a high quality coach in terms of how he protects his players and the information. We understand all of that. But for him to say, look, okay, we're down 3-0 after the first period, but I told our guys in the intermission that this is a winnable hockey game. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and as it turned out to be, they find a way to claw back and they draw even. But I think he's just selling it. He's selling it to the room, and he's selling it to his fan base. And he wants to make sure that we're not spending all of this off day talking about how the Flames are on the cusp of being eliminated by the Edmonton Oilers. But I can tell you one thing, we just talked about, McDavid and Kane and Draisaitl, and Nuge has the big game, obviously. Hyman continues to roll. You look down at the stats line of John Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk. Okay, granted, they had more chances maybe than they have in the last couple of games of the series, but Gaudreau had 4 shots, Matthew Tkachuk had 1, and that line produces nothing other than Lindholm, of course, scored the goal. If that line doesn't introduce itself offensively to the series, I just don't see Edmonton giving it away at this point.
TR.
Yeah, I mean, more of what I said earlier. Gaudreau did have 4 shots. Interesting. I mean, I just didn't think they seemed like they were clicking like they were before. And with it looked sloppier than I expected. The energy level from Calgary wasn't. I'm not going to say it wasn't there. It just, sometimes they say work hard but work smart. Their legs were going, but I'm not sure what they were accomplishing. And to me, like I said, that's usually someone who or a team that is unsure of themselves and doesn't really know what to do next. And it really, to me, I said this a game ago or after the last game. Matthew Tkachuk specifically said, we've got to do a better job containing him. And they specifically him. That's McDavid. And I thought that was really revealing. And it seems like a team that, again, I'm beating a dead horse, but are unsure of themselves, vulnerable.
Yeah.
And unless they came out really with a clear indication of how they were going to play and a plan,
Yeah.
I don't know how that got any better. And I don't know that it did. And it's the Calgary Flames. Of course, they finished where they did for a reason. But this is a few games in a row now that I'm not sure they know. I'm not sure that it's like they're losing their roles. They don't know their identity almost. And the last thing I'll add on Sutter, borderline giddy's a great way to put it, Dregs. I was almost astonished. I know it's I mean, you know what he's doing, right? Obviously he's acting like that for a reason. It's a coaching mechanism, take the pressure off but I mean, it's 3-1. You've got a reputation. I thought that spoke volumes as well. I mean, here's a team that's facing elimination and you would never say it.
So take us into the dressing room if I can here, TR. So we see Chris Tanev come into the series, right? The Hyman goal, I mean, it's obvious that his right shoulder is no good. He can't push off in front of the net. The goal goes in and his shoulder, his arm literally drops, right?
Yeah.
So he barely misses any time, but you can tell that he's laboring. He comes back in the second period and I mean, he's different, right? He's different. So is it as simple as, okay, and we're not doctors, we're not the training staff of the Calgary Flames, so I'm not asking you to speculate, but based on your history in that room, is it as simple as maybe popping it back in and, taping it, doing whatever you do?
Yeah,
he wasn't, but he was better. Yeah. He was better in the second and better in the third. And maybe that's just the timing of the game coming together for him. But he looked like he was done after that Hyman goal. Yeah. And man, he gutted it for the next 2 periods.
Yeah, you don't normally see someone so obviously laboring unless they leave the game. Yeah. He kept coming back. I'm like, what's going on? Look, I've seen that. Usually you pop it back. That does happen, but it's not usually such a process. You're like, oh, it's out. Okay, it's in. I don't know that I've seen anybody go through such torture. But I mean, he could have frozen it.
Yeah.
Guys, I was thinking that he froze it. That's really what I was thinking, which because I don't know what kind of injury it is. I mean, upper body, shoulder. I mean, you can tell that it's there, but there's all kinds of different things going on. There's bones, there's ligaments, tendons, whatever. I mean, it looked to me like, it was like it was like a superhero when he came back out. So I would think, given my knowledge, I mean, a couple of painkillers and maybe he froze it.
Yeah. So the Oilers, to me, you guys, like, they've had some ups and downs in these playoffs, and they've had some bad periods and some bad games. But it would appear to me, Dregs, like there is a momentum happening with this team right now. Like they, wasn't good in game 1 of this series, but then game 2 happened. And then game 3 happened, and it's this slow build. And there are players all around McDavid and Draisaitl whose games are starting to pick up as well. So it would seem to me this team's learning some lessons on the fly. And obviously the next one's going to be the toughest one to win. But this team feels equipped for that challenge in a way I wouldn't have said they were halfway through the LA series, say.
Completely agree. And look, you have to be a diehard Oilers fan not to think in the moment, and we talked about it earlier, that Mike Smith letting that Rasmus Anderson shot in from 2 zones away would be enough to buckle. And Calgary would win that game. And okay, here we go. We got a best of 3. They didn't do that even a little bit. They didn't do that at all. In fact, it kind of galvanized in the moment, woke them up, and they said, all right, we got to get going here because this is a game we should be winning. And we're on the cusp of losing, and they found a way to grind it out. But to your point, Ryan, I look around the players that are coming together here, and it's not just the goal scorers. Again, RNH has a big night with the 2, starts and ends the offense really for them. Evander Kane now 5 multi-goal games, but even the time that you see the Archibald line out there, right? Like they're doing something. They're doing something. They're trying to be physical. They're trying to create some energy. They're just making sure that Jay Woodcroft knows that they've got a role to play. They can contribute in this series. So that seems to me like it's getting more consistent as this series moves forward.
Guys, I'd like to point out one thing. And we being fans, and I don't consider myself part of the media, but the media as well. you know, and you're drawn to McDavid and to talk about McDavid for obvious reasons. Draisaitl, right? Nurse, I can go down the list, but it's a lot of the time, as many teams, you know, you talk about the players who make an impact, and when players make such an impact, everything seems to trickle down off their shoulders. But I really find this is as a fan watching the games at midnight. I can't imagine if I was in the building, but I find it as influential on the game as when Archibald and Cassian and McLeod or Fogle, Yamamoto, these guys get out and they start going kamikaze, man, and they start hitting, and the place starts rocking. Yeah. And how many times does McDavid come out and follow that up with an end-to-end rush? And I'm certainly not. One is harder to do, but one just takes a bit of effort. And you know, I've often said it, like anybody can get their feet going. That's why I don't understand when people in the playoffs, well, we know we weren't mentally ready. What are you talking about? You weren't mentally ready. Like I can see if you make a mistake that way, but have your feet going. Like, you know, run. Yeah. You know, run the D and finish your hits. You're going to draw penalties that way. You're going to gain momentum. It's not just about the hit and hurt the guy. It's about, you know, going out there and getting the fans into it and making this a rhythm, you know, hit, goal, hit, pass, hit, power play. And I find that McDavid feeds off that as much, and everybody feeds off that. Yeah. But, you know, to me, it's night and day. And that wasn't there the game they lost at all, at all. I'm not saying they're intimidated, but when you're playing with confidence and you're feeding off energy, I find that the bottom 6 or 7 guys really influential on the game. And when that happens, you're a championship team.
Yeah. And they're not playing a ton, right? The lower guys in the lineup, they're not getting much for minutes. But what I'm finding, Dregs, is that maybe compared to earlier on in the playoffs, there are fewer shifts where guys go out and accomplish nothing. And I found early in the playoffs, especially down in their lineup, maybe confidence was an issue, maybe ice time was an issue. There were a lot of shifts that were just tofu, dead zone, nothing. I mean, that's Nugent-Hopkins, that's McLeod, that's a lot of guys outside of their big guns. And I find they go out with a purpose every shift. And most guys seem to be accomplishing something on most of the shifts out there. And it looks, to my eye, like way more efficient hockey.
Completely agree with that. And man, you need that, right? To go deep into the playoffs, you have to have that wave after wave approach and differing roles and offensive leadership, defensive structure, all of that. I get that. But if you don't have the buy-in that TR just talked about, then you're just not going to win. You're not going to get to the Stanley Cup final. And now we're looking at this team and you can see it, you can believe it, you can understand it. You know, Ryan, you would know this because you watch this team more than anyone. We're sitting in studio at TSN, myself and Dave Poulin and Cheryl Pounder last night. And one player that we continually talk about, didn't know a ton about, but you can see he's developing into a real nice player, is Ryan McLeod. You know, like he just finds a way to draw your eye and gain your interest. Now, you know, how much production are you going to get out of McLeod moving forward? I mean, it looks like
he sure skates well.
Boy, does he skate well, and fairly aggressive. So when you're noticing individual plays like that, that tells you that he's paying attention, right? He knows that if he's going to not just stay in the lineup, but be a trusted source for Jay Woodcroft and the coaching staff, he's got to give everything he's got.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say fairly aggressive, and I agree with you. He's playing the game with an aggressiveness. Dregs, that hasn't always been there, man. I've been on this guy all year, since last year, for his lack of physicality. He's one of those guys that through 82 games didn't really even think twice about whether he should throw a hit or not. And now we're seeing him in the playoffs doing his best to finish checks, even though it doesn't come naturally. TR, do you think that the Flames are cooked here, or do you think there was enough in that locker room through the regular season and there's another level that they can still get to? Do you think that they will make a fight out of this?
Oh, I don't think they're cooked at all. First of all, even though the Oilers they used, you know, that Smith goal, that bad goal for momentum and all. It was 3-3 late in the game here. They weren't, I mean, it could be 2-2.
Yep.
So and it's Calgary Flames. They got lots of great veterans, a coach that's been through it all and then some. Some of his most famous moments are from comebacks. So no, I don't think they're done at all. And the next one's in Calgary. I think if anything, Edmonton's got to come out the same way and really, I think they know what's in store, but they better come out prepared, quote unquote, because, you know, this is a kind of, to me, Calgary's the kind of team that does come back from 3-1. Edmonton are playing great, but again, the next one's in Calgary. I have no reason to think that it won't be like game one, which was a completely different atmosphere. Now it's 3-2 going back to Edmonton. Anything can happen. Are Edmonton in the driver's seat? Obviously, I'm not going to be a Kreskin telling you that. But no, I think Calgary are going to come back with a big time effort, and are going to have a huge first period next game.
What's your sense, Dregs?
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I really can. And I'm reminded of Steven Stamkos, though, right? When they sweep the Florida Panthers after the game, he talked about how, even though there were some sketchy elements in game 4, and that was the best game that the Panthers played in the series, Tampa Bay just wasn't going to not seize the opportunity, right? Oh. Days off, all of that. So this is going to be another mental toughness test for the Edmonton Oilers. But I feel like, given the depth of the Calgary Flames, we spent some time talking about Gaudreau and Tkachuk, but man, their secondary scoring hasn't really delivered either. Like, you need to see more from Toffoli and Coleman. Mangiapane is buzzing around out there. He's getting guys in headlocks and stuff like that. It's a distraction for him. Dubé's got the speed. Like, it's not like those pieces can't be major factors on a positive side for the Calgary Flames. So I don't think they're done either. I agree with TR. I think that this series is coming back.
Great stuff, you guys. That was Duffy and Dregs featuring TRyan, brought to you by Belvan Construction, specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces. So visit belvanconstruction.com. Fellas, let's plug your products a little bit. Dregs, when's the next Ray and Dregs coming out?
In fact, it'll come out later today as we record here on Wednesday. We've got Jessica Campbell, who's an assistant coach with Germany. Yeah, she's coming on the podcast, doing a real nice job there, and looking forward to having a conversation with her, former national team member for Team Canada. So, Ray's got a bit of a break in his schedule after the Ranger-Carolina game last night. So we'll probably drop that bad boy later this afternoon. Hey,
speaking of the worlds, how's Nylander looking, Dregsy?
Holy smokes. I mean, if you haven't seen the video and you're a troll who happens to like the struggles of the Toronto Maple Leafs, there was a video posted on Twitter. I can't remember the account, but of Nylander on a sequence, one shift where he hit like 3-4 guys. He was pounding on the forecheck. He was just a man possessed. Yeah. And I had the audacity, as soon as I saw the clip, to send it to Leafs management.
You did not.
I didn't get much of a response.
Great.
100%. Oh, yeah.
Flipping troll.
I love that stuff.
You are a troll.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean,
wow.
Well, and the caption is, "Who the F is this?" I didn't say that, but that was.
And did you get anything? Did you get anything back?
No, not really. Like a ha something like that.
Yeah. You are, man, you can't help yourself but to shit disturb every chance you get, man. Unreal. TR, for you, Tales with TR, we did that this week. It was lots of fun. Shorzy, what are the responses been like? I love it, buddy. I've told you this before. I love it, man.
Yeah, episode 5 and 6 are released on this Friday, May 27th, here on Crave, and it'll be streaming on Hulu. It's season 1 to 6, I believe, will be available in the United States on the same day. So I'm looking forward to that. And my podcast, Tales with TR, I have Max Bouffard on today, which will be posted later tonight. And he plays JJ Frankie JJ.
Oh, okay.
He's got a very, very interesting story, this guy. I won't give it away, but he wasn't always and he played a fairly high level, used to play goal, had a very significant thing happen in his life, and I'll let him explain it, but that's what I got coming up. Thanks for asking.
That's awesome. And Dregs, if you end up on Terry's podcast, you know that red box over your shoulder there with the expensive stuff? You're going to want to bust that out ahead of time and get yourself in the right headspace, because all I'll say, man, is shit gets weird on Tales with TR, so be ready.
That's fantastic. I can't wait.
Here you go. I got Struds next week, maybe Dregs the week after.
Yeah. Okay, buddy. I'm good.
Great stuff, guys. Thanks so much for the time. Plenty more to come here on Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products. Stay with us.
If you're a business owner looking for a general contractor to build or renovate your business, no matter how big or small, Belvan Construction should be your first call. Specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces, Belvan can assist you from start to finish. Learn more by going to belvanconstruction.com.
Folks, golf season is just around the corner, and I don't know about you, but I am some kind of fired up over it. It's the perfect time to get yourself fitted for new clubs or some great new apparel. Well, DeBoers has you covered for all of it. Their facility is first class with amazing TrackMan technology in their simulators and top-of-the-field fitting specialists. You can order now for spring delivery, and they've also got a bunch of new 22 apparel for you to go check out. It's a fantastic group down there at DeBoers. The shop has a great positive feel. I highly recommend you check them out on the corner of 53rd Street and 99th Avenue. DeBoers, helping you play better golf since 1999. Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park has proudly served the community and supported minor sports in the area for almost 20 years. It's a great gathering place for sports fans. Average Joe's has massive big screen TVs, comfortable seating, and a friendly staff waiting to make your experience anything but average. Come check it out on Baseline Road, right next to Home Depot, or make a reservation by calling 780-417-1113. That's Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. All right, time now for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by DeBoers Golf Shop and Fitting Center, helping you play better golf, your local golf shop for the last 23 years. The crew at DeBoers is all in on this Oiler playoff run. They are massive hockey fans, massive Oiler fans, wearing their jerseys pretty much all day, every day, flying the colors. The only thing they love talking more about these days than golf is hockey. So if you want to pick up some apparel, practice your putting, get into a simulator, take a look at some new equipment, and talk a bunch of hockey in the process with a passionate crew, then head on down to DeBoers. It's an awesome place with a real good vibe, and I highly recommend you check it out as we check in with Chris Sabunia, Zuby, Basement Chris out in Kelowna. How you doing, buddy? We haven't talked to you on the podcast for a little while. You've been busy like pushing the buttons and pulling the levers. We haven't had you on.
I've been a voice. The voice of God a few times telling you, yeah, no, we have that clip, but I haven't been on here to chat in a little while.
We've had a few, I don't want to call them technical disasters. And as people know, we let it ride here on Got Your Back, right? We live and die with our mistakes. We don't necessarily hide them. But I thought you reacted really well on the live stream the other day, because so we're doing this live stream. We're live on Twitter and live on YouTube. And all of a sudden, I'm on the phone with Pierre LeBrun. All of a sudden, I just completely froze, like gone. Freeze frame, nothingness. It's just the abyss. It's worst nightmare. And so for people who might not understand, to be the guy at the controls in that situation, that is freaking stressful, Chris. And I listened to it afterwards, and you did really well. You kind of came on. Your voice kind of came on. You were a little bit shaky. You were like, okay, well, it sounds like we lost the guys, but just give us a minute and we'll try and get them back. And then you sprung into action and you resurrected that live stream out of nothing, Zuby.
Well, it was a good thing I was actually like 100% dialed in and listening, right? Because sometimes I'm looking at something else, or I'm, trying to pull a stat or something like that. And so I was listening right at that moment. And when I saw your face freeze completely in the audio cut, I was like, oh, this is bad. This is bad.
This is not good, Maverick. And we are live.
So the only thing I wish I thought, I was a little bit panicked, turned my mic on. I could have came in probably with probably could have come in with a little bit of humor looking back. But yeah, I just said, I think we lost him. Stay with us. And I brought that picture up of you with no audio. I turned the theme music up and then I started texting you, trying to get you back on. So
trying to figure it out. The funny thing is we kind of predicted that, because I had that freeze frame ready for you. It's a picture of me holding a sign that says, sorry, audio only, because we just know that the technical things are going to pop up here and there, but I thought you handled it well. Although you do have, this is in your history. People need to understand you were an editor in a newsroom, fully functioning CTV Edmonton. Chris was one of the core editors, and cutting a story on deadline to me has to be one of the most stressful things you can be asked to do in our business? Like, how insane would it get? So the show starts at 6 o'clock. You're the lead story. You're cutting it in your suite. What's the latest you'd still been cutting a lead story for a 6 o'clock show?
6:01. Well, the anchors are stretching the lead a little bit just to try and get us to that, to the.
That's crazy. People have no idea, hey, how close it gets cut behind the scenes.
Oh, and when I started too, I mean, there was the literal, we were still on tape, which is, that sounds like a crazy thing, I'm sure, to most people now. I was there as things turned to nonlinear and turned to digital, but we were on tape. And I remember asking one time what was his name? Reiner?
Yeah.
Reiner, the VTR guy. I asked him one time because there was another editor who was doing unnecessary tape changes, kind of wasn't thinking nonlinear in the way that she cut stuff. And I said to him, I'm like, Reiner, how long does a tape change take? He says 18 seconds, like boom, like it was like a move, like and I said,
yeah, he knew.
Every time you add that extra, when you're not adding, it was just some of these elements that you could add in sort of in a nonlinear way. I said, so 18 seconds every time, you can't kind of time that out. So everything you did in there cutting the tape, it was whatever it was to press eject on the thing and literally have to watch the tape.
It's nuts.
Was
nuts.
Crazy.
Back in editing near showtime, it's crazy. The tension in the suites, and you guys are so calm and so cool. And you're kind of like the brains behind the operation. You were always great at it. Okay. Time for Got Your Back story. We haven't had a chance to get your Got Your Back story, Chris, and I think today's the perfect chance to do that. So time for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by DeBoer's Golf Shop. And your story, I think, ties in nicely because you're going to talk about that CTV newsroom.
Yeah, directly what we were just talking about. So this is just a little thing, but as you said, sometimes the Got Your Back stories are just little things. And going all the way back to when I was, 18, 19 years old, just coming out of high school and wanted to go into television and broadcasting. And to get into Nate, you went to BCIT, right?
I did, yeah.
You went to BCIT. So when you work in TV in Vancouver, everybody went to BCIT. When you work in TV in Edmonton, everybody went to Nate. And and so you had to do a career investigation report to get into the program. It was an oversubscribed program, really popular. And my career investigation was a little bit light. I had an in at Nate, and the fella told me, he goes, I don't think this is going to get you in. You need another interview. So, and I didn't really understand the magnitude of how good that career investigation report had to be. Anyway, somebody told, I don't remember how I ended up going to him, but basically I just picked up the phone and called Daryl McIntyre. Long time CFRN
Daryl McIntyre,
anchor. And not only did I just pick up the phone and call him, but 19-year-old me with no real idea of how a newsroom worked, I think I called him at about 4:30, and the anchors at that time of day
are stressed out. Then, buddy,
they're up to their eyeballs, right? And not only did he answer the phone, and not be difficult or a jerk about it or upset or annoyed or anything. Like, he talked to me on the phone for 10-15 minutes at absolutely his busiest time of the day.
Wow.
And just like and I ended up, we just had a really nice conversation, and he was really forthright and honest, forthcoming, and was like, good, glad to help you out. And I got into Nate, and the rest, I guess, is history, because here I am. Look at where
now you're in a basement in Kelowna talking to me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the dream has been achieved. So.
Oh no, you're being humble, buddy. Growler Media is a major presence out there. You do fantastic work, all kinds of different video editing and graphics and animations and stuff. You've done incredibly well. You were one of the best, most creative, efficient editors I ever worked with. So who knows where your career would have gone, though, had Daryl done what he should have done, which is to teach you a hard lesson and said, yeah, you want to work in news? Hey, what time's the news on? What time is it? Figure it out. Bang. And hung right up on you. Who knows where your career would have landed if he'd have done that to you.
I still could have put that in my career investigation. So here's what I learned investigating this career. Don't call the
Here is my lesson learned. Yeah, exactly. That you'd have been ahead of the game, buddy. Awesome. Appreciate that story. Thank you very much. That's going to be a wrap on the podcast here, folks. Thanks for tuning in. How much fun is this? The Battle of Alberta. The games have been good. Our analysts have been great. We're having an absolute blast here on Got You Back, and we're going to keep rolling these things out as long as the Oilers are rocking and rolling. Big thanks to our sponsors, DLR Vinyl Products, Park Mazda, Belvan Construction, DeBoer's Golf Shop, and Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park. As we hit stop on this podcast, I will hop into my vehicle, head down Highway 2 to Calgary, where the Oilers are going to do a late afternoon media availability. We will be there over the next couple of days. We will be at the game and look forward to dropping another podcast here in the days that come. Thanks for your downloads, your subscriptions. Thanks for your support, your comments on Twitter. I'm reading them all. We love your feedback. Feel free to leave a review on iTunes if you like as well. Appreciate your participation, folks. We're having lots of fun. Talk to you soon. This has been Got Your Back, presented by my brothers, DLR Vinyl Products.